Point of this shot is to be like joke sexy, but I can't get on the couch without damaging my picture. I don't want to hurt my picture, I just want to lay all sexy. The highly requested. You guys are just dying to talk about my frenulum. Oh no, my brain leaked, hold on. So funny story about my frenulum. I actually don't have one anymore, and that's what this video is about. One year ago, I went to a surgeon and he cut it out of my mouth and pulled it out with a pair of creepy little tiny tweezers, and it looked like a creepy little tiny worm. Both of my girls got their tongue tie revised. I talked about that on YouTube. I got mine revised and I vlogged it, talked about that on YouTube, and now I wanted to give you guys a 1-year update to let you know like the pros and cons of the procedure that I got done, because I know that a lot of you guys got evaluated after you saw my video. Overall, I am really glad that I got my tongue tie revised as an adult, but it's honestly not been all good, and now I have even more work to do. So let's hop into this video. In this video, we're gonna start with the pros of the procedure and the things that I liked the most about it. Why I'm so glad that I got it done. Then, of course, we have to talk about the cons. Last, I'm gonna tell you guys what I would do differently, and I bet you it's not what you would expect. And that also includes what is next for me, because this also opened a new problem. Jumping straight into the pros, the benefits of my adult tongue tie revision. And this, of course, is not medical advice. This is not a promise or a guarantee. This is just what I experienced. First off, I definitely have way less neck and shoulder tension. My neck was always tight, my shoulders were always more tight. They're still really tight because I have neck problems, but that's been a big benefit. And that's something that I noticed immediately. So if you watch that vlog that I told you about, you'll be able to see that like I was talking about that even while the procedure was getting done. I can lick my nose for the first time in my life. Were you guys like this, like at school as a kid? My friends would like lick their nose with their tongue and I can't do it. But now, post tongue tie revision, I can reach my nose with my tongue. So I'm curious to hear from you guys in the comments if you can reach your nose with your tongue and whether or not you're tongue tied. I'm personally curious if there's a connection here. I can also reach my back teeth with my tongue to clean them better when I'm eating. And I know that sounds really gross to say, but this is one of the listed benefits of tongue tie. When I was considering tongue tie revision for my daughters and myself, they said it can help with cleaning out those back teeth. I mean, it makes sense because your tongue, I guess, is supposed to reach back there. Mine never could, but now it can. I also feel like my lower jaw has relaxed and moved forward, and it's able to sit closed at rest in a way that it was never really able to before. I do feel like it has improved the overall appearance of my face and my jawline. I feel like all of this is just a little bit more of that stereotype attractive appearance that you hear about. Even my lips feel like they can be more relaxed when I'm at rest. And I'm thinking about encouraging this even further by starting to use mouth tape at night. Mouth tape it's not just tape. It's not just tape that you shove over your mouth. It's usually rectangular, I guess, with a hole, and you put it like that. And when you sleep like that, it encourages your mouth to gently stay closed, and it helps with your breathing and your airway and your posture. More on that later. Tied to that improved breathing, I do notice that I'm having a lot less of those sleep apnea episodes that I was having before I got my tongue tie surgery. The sleep apnea episodes are really scary, and it's a super welcome change to not have those anymore. They still happen every once in a while, but it's to a much less degree, and I really do attribute that to my easier breathing. The benefits are not just external. I also have improved tongue posture. Tongues have a posture. What that means is now my tongue is able to seal to the roof of my mouth in the back. Before, the tip of my tongue could touch, but the back of my tongue could not reach up to the back of the roof of my mouth. That's a very important thing for your tongue to be able to do, not just for cleaning molars like I was talking about before, but also for proper swallowing. And when you're a kid, a big reason I got my babies revised is that motion of your tongue helps expand the roof of your mouth. So the fact that your tongue does this has a really important function in your mouth, and unfortunately, my mouth did not get to experience that when it was developing. It's a very fortunate thing that it's starting to happen now, because hopefully it will encourage my jaw in the proper direction, i.e. expansion, but there's no guarantees. At first, when my tongue started sealing to the roof of my mouth back there, it felt really, really slimy because that part of my mouth had never felt my tongue before. It was also kind of a weird sensation of as if I was going to swallow my tongue. And it took me a little while to learn how to swallow pills again. But sure enough, I became used to it really fast. I'm gonna try to say this with a straight face. I'm so much better at swallowing now. Completely PG swallowing. When I drink a glass of water, for example, I can chug a glass of water. I finally understand how people can chug. I was never able to chug before because my tongue couldn't go up to the roof of my mouth in the back, so I would swallow air and I would have to do it more slowly. But now, guys, I can just swallow. It's easier for food too, once I learned how to chew and swallow again, a little bit more comfortably with my new tongue. Moving on to the cons. Recovery. Recovery was brutal for a couple of days, and I was pretty sore for, I don't know, a week. Look back at the vlog. The vlog will tell you the truth. That was pretty bad, but of course short-lived, so more than worth it. I also still feel like I have a certain pain where the incision is when I stretch my tongue. So if I do, it kind of hurts where the surgery was, but to be fair, so did my tongue tie. Like, my tongue tie really didn't like being stretched either. So I don't know if that's because I had a surgery or if that's just normal for under the tongue sensation, but that's a con that I've noticed. I made a note here that I wanted to mention a con being that slimy feeling, needing to relearn how to swallow pills. There was a little bit of a crazy wild tongue feeling in the beginning when I first wasn't hurting. All those little changes were an adjustment to get used to. So as a YouTuber, I'm being watched a lot. People are paying attention to my mouth a lot. It was kind of uncomfortable sometimes filming while I was learning. So if you are considering getting your tongue tie, revised and you have a speaking or a singing or this kind of a job or hobby, whatever, if you have to talk a lot, you may want to keep that in mind when you're trying to time when to do your tongue tie. What would happen when I was filming back then, and still to a small extent now, is I would start talking and I would kind of go into autopilot because I'm thinking of the words, I'm not thinking about my mouth. And so my tongue would go onto autopilot with the way it used to move when I had my tongue tie. And so then I would just be talking and suddenly my tongue is, instead of da-da-da-da-da, it's going while I'm talking and I'm borderline tripping over it, like running down a hill too fast because my tongue was just out of control. My S sounds and a couple of other sounds, I can't quite remember, maybe sounds. A couple of sounds got a little bit awkward for me, and I don't think other people noticed, but I certainly noticed. And this is where the cons for me, unfortunately, get a little bit more serious, and I alluded to this in the beginning, but there is actually a really big issue with my tongue being too big for the roof of my mouth. I'm not sure if I'll be able to show you like this, but when my tongue is at rest now, instead of resting inside my teeth, it wants to gently rest sort of between my teeth. It's too wide. Hopefully you can see that. And at first that was fine. I got used to pulling my tongue back in. I did have a solid few weeks where the sides of my tongue got really raw and they got really irritated from talking and chewing. I think when my tongue first gained that mobility, it was just rubbing on my teeth a lot and it was rubbing it raw, and then my tongue had to learn to keep itself in more. And so like, okay, fair enough. Growing pains, we're learning, right? But, guys, this is a big problem. Hold on, let me check my notes. I don't want to get ahead of myself. So the sides of my tongue got really irritated for a while, and especially irritated if I was talking a lot or if I was chewing a lot. And when that was happening and I started to pull my tongue more narrow to protect the sides, subconsciously, my tongue started pushing forward instead. Because again, my tongue is bigger now, it's gotta go somewhere. So now my tongue is pushing forward. And the problem with my tongue pushing forward is I feel like it is slowly over time, instead of expanding my palate outwards, it's pushing my top teeth that way. Ah, heck no. We're not doing this. I'm not down for a jaw that goes like, So now when I'm sitting at rest, I can kind of feel my tongue going toward the front as it's relaxing. My bottom jaw, like I said, is relaxed and pushed forwards. My lips are relaxed and wanting to stay together and forwards. And so my lower teeth and my tongue are both hitting the back of those upper teeth. Guys, we're creating problems here. Now I'm running into all these problems. As my lower jaw continues to try to move itself forward into the front of my upper jaw, not only are those lower teeth gonna bump into the back of those top teeth and encourage those top teeth outward, but those top teeth are going to be encouraging my bottom teeth inward. And I already had some crowding on my bottom jaw, so I already wanted to expand my upper jaw. But now, even more so, that crowding is just getting worse, and my top teeth are starting to kick out, and this is all just, oh gosh, no. No. Let's quickly talk about my orthodontic journey as a kid. When I was a kid, like I said, I did have my tongue tie, of course, because I didn't get it revised until a year ago. I asked my mom about it, and she said I was able to breastfeed for at least a year. I have a pretty minor tongue tie, and it was not noticed or evaluated until I saw my daughter's tongue ties. So I think I'm a pretty minor case, but nonetheless, it was identified when I was in elementary school that my top jaw was not wide enough. So I got this appliance in my mouth called a Herpes treatment that expanded my top jaw, and they also pulled my lower jaw forward. I had an overbite of 11 millimeters because my narrow top jaw was pushing my lower jaw backwards. So now my top jaw is still kind of narrow, but my bottom jaw is really relaxed and my tongue is really relaxed. And so my bottom jaw wants to fit up where it should be, but it was artificially pushed forward already when I was a kid. And now all this other stuff is happening and I just feel like nothing is quite fitting right. So now, a year later, my jaw is starting to hurt again. Things were awesome, got better, and I feel like now maybe we're getting worse. And talking is getting harder. Worse. When your teeth move a lot, your tongue has to change where it's gonna go to make different letters. It's really subtle, my teeth have barely moved, but when it comes to talking and things that my tongue was used to doing on its own just automatically, those things have been really heavily impacted. And I'm not really down to find out how far my teeth want to move if I just let this keep going. So let's talk about what's next. And yeah, this is what's next, but it's also what I would do differently next time. Next, I'm gonna do some myofunctional therapy. If you've never heard of myofunctional therapy, I don't blame you. I didn't hear about it until a couple of years ago, but I didn't know that they had it specifically for tongue tie until 2 weeks ago. So I get myofunctional therapy right now for draining my brain. You know about draining my brain if you watched my Nuka video. And I told you, guys, there's gonna be one more video, a 5th video in the pentafecta of videos. And then I totally left you hanging like a complete jerk. And I never made that myofunctional therapy video. But myofunctional therapy is what I was gonna talk about because I've been getting it and it's helping a lot for my brain. But now I think I need it for my tongue. My myofunctional therapist, she's actually a fascial counterstrain. My fascial counterstrain masseuse, I don't know what to call it, guys. I just go get the treatments. She is not trained in the tongue tie stuff, so she's not able to help me. But the next thing I wanna do is look into myofunctional therapy and also tongue posture exercises and palate expansion exercises so that we can get me back on the right track to where my jaw should have developed. Typically, people who are tongue-tied will have a forward head posture with a really tight jaw, really tight neck, really tight shoulders. And that's because, as you must know by now, that tongue tie is not just in your mouth. It's connected. It goes down your body, Everything in your body is connected. So that same therapy that I've been using, again, details later, that has been relaxing my skull and helping me with my high and low brain pressure problems, I'm hoping I can now find someone who can help me to do that same thing with my tongue and my jaw. When myofunctional therapy is done in conjunction with getting a tongue tie release, you can have better outcomes. And I really wish that I had known that when I got my tongue tie done. If I could go back and do anything differently, I would have started those exercises sooner. I would have had my jaw and my palate and my breathing, my airway evaluated sooner. I would have done that before I ever got my tongue tie revised so that my whole head, neck, jaw could be prepared for that tightness to be cut, because the way that it happened was my body just had to react. I did not prepare it. Now, my doctor, unfortunately, did not warn me that any of that could happen. He didn't tell me that there could be any implications for my jaw, my teeth alignment. So I'm really a little bit disappointed that he didn't actually warn me about all of the risks of the procedure. I feel like the only risk he actually warned me about when I went into the procedure was that I might get an infection at the incision site, just like any surgery, just like any cut. So I do wish he would have told me about this. But also, my doctor has never contacted me for a follow-up. In my eyes, this is not the best practice. This doctor, when I went in for that evaluation, that was the first time that I had ever seen the doctor. I got evaluated and I got revised on the exact same day. I had already done my prior research and I felt pretty convinced that I needed my tongue tie revised. So when I went in, I didn't tell him that I had done a lot of research, but I was pretty sure that if he recommended the revision, I was going to get the revision. If he had mentioned these risks, I don't know if I would have necessarily gotten it revised that same day. I probably would have gone home to think about it, to maybe do some of these preparing exercises, and then I would have gone back to get it revised when my body was more prepared. After he revised my tongue tie, I left. I never heard from him again. I never went back. They didn't check on me. I'm not even sure if he's aware that this is a risk, because if he's not checking on me, he's probably not checking on his other patients either. So I don't know how he knew that I would have good outcomes. I hope he's not just telling the other patients that I had a perfect outcome just because I haven't gone back to report to him. But anyway, my point is just be careful that sometimes the doctor isn't going to mention all the risks. Sometimes the doctor isn't asking the prior patients what's going on to find out what those risks even are. As always, throw your information in the comments, because the more information we have, the better. I guess the more information people who are considering this have, the better. I'm excited to move on to this myofunctional therapy for my tongue. I am still planning on making a video for you guys about the myofunctional therapy fascial counter strain that I get for my brain. I don't really know. It's called myofunctional therapy, myofascial therapy, myofascial counter strain, fascial counter strain. Maybe there is no myofascial counter strain. There are a lot of different names for it. I don't know exactly what's right, but there are a lot of different names for it. I don't know exactly what's right, and I don't know how interchangeable the terms are, so forgive me there. But I do know that it's myofunctional therapy that I have been recommended to look into for the tongue tie thing, and it is fascial counter strain that I get for my high cranial pressure for that C2 misalignment that I have. That's the video that I am hoping to get out soon here too. I think that will probably be maybe not the next video that I film, but the one after that. So keep your eyes peeled. Goodbye from me. Goodbye from Nelly.